Good evening, folks. Share this program out. We realize the president started the press conference at kind of an unusual time, like 6:40 or something like that, and he's still speaking. And we're going to go ahead and go on with our show.
We don't want to keep anyone waiting.
But share it out. It's going to be a good one, another good one. You don't want to miss it. If you're watching the president and you're coming back to watch it on replay, that's fine. The information is still valid.
Oh, yes.
It'll always be here.
Yep.
Enjoy the show. We have about another minute of music we're going to bring on the show in about a minute. So you have time. If you're on Facebook, share it out. If you're on YouTube, send messages to people and share the link. Tell them to jump on because it's going to be a doozy. Fasten your seatbelt, Dorothy. You're not in Kansas anymore.
Good evening, everyone, to Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp.
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. And tonight, although the president is still talking, in fact, he's talking about Portland, Oregon, and the continued protests / riots that have been going on there for weeks now. God, it feels like it's been over a month, doesn't it?
It's actually been over 60 days. So it's been over 2 months.
Jeez, it's crazy. I mean, no, but I mean just the ones in Portland.
Yeah, they had their 60-day thing
They
the other day.
started too?
Yeah.
60. Oh, wow. Well, I mean, it is a pandemic. Time just keeps going on. It feels like
it seemed like it was March
months.
not too long ago, and it's like I thought, can I stay inside for 4 weeks? And it's like it's been March, April, May, June, July, into August. It's like 6 months. What? I said, what?
The president is announcing a whole slew of different orders and executive orders that he is planning on making. Some of them are drafted already, like the unemployment.
Oh, really?
They're just drafted. He's expecting that, if there isn't any action by Congress, then he may have to do it by executive order.
Well, this has been a whole week. First, a whole working week of people not having this extra $600. And that was done because it keeps people to stay home. They're dickering about whether it should be less or a percent of their income and all these things to make it complicated. There's nothing wrong with paying people to stay home and not infecting the community so we can lower this curve and get out of this this virus, and it's going to be temporary, but for them just to cut it off and then not do anything for a whole week, I think something really does need to be done. So I support him to do that, just to put, fire under the seat of Congress,
He's not only saying he's going to sign an executive order to resolve that, he's saying he's going to put an executive order that will stop people getting evicted. Good. And also temporarily stop the payment of payroll taxes to help small businesses hire back their employees. And in tonight's press conference, he's announcing that he's going to be doing a national preference program that makes the prescription drug companies give the American people the same price they're giving to other countries, which many times they sell for reduced prices.
Oh, yeah.
You know this because you've bought medicine in Mexico.
Yeah, and also in Canada. In fact,
Right,
we had
right.
when Senator Dorgan was senator in North Dakota, he took busloads of people, seniors, up to the Canadian border because North Dakota is on the border with Canada, and they go to pharmacies and buy their medications they needed for like a tenth the price that they had to go to the American pharmacies. It was totally legal, and he says, "Why do I have to take all these seniors up to Canada? We should be doing something about it." That was Senator Dorgan. He was a senator for many years in North
And
Dakota.
I'll tell you something on that front. I have never heard of a president do something like that. That would really change things. You know how many elderly people have to cross borders to get their medical treatment? It's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, it is.
But one of the things that has been the hallmark of this administration is putting Americans in America first. Some people don't like it. Some people love it. But it's definitely been the hallmark of this president. And I think that one of the things that really irks people about the woman I have been exposing on this program, Paloma Zuniga, who goes by the name of Paloma for Trump. She uses the president's name as part of her identity, as part of her celebrity. And she does the opposite of what this administration and this president have been known for, which is to give an advantage to Americans living in America. Because she doesn't live in America. She doesn't live in America. She lives in Mexico. And she takes the advantage of the fact that she has dual citizenship to come over our borders and harass and harangue, threaten, and nuisance litigate against American citizens using the American loopholes in the legal system in order to have an advantage as a Mexican citizen that lives in Mexico over Americans. To be able to take swipes and snipes and attacks over that border and then go hide back in Mexico where she can avoid the long arm of the law. She can file false police reports. She can file false protection orders. She can file false civil harassment complaints in the U.S., make people waste their time, make people litigate things that normally are a nuisance to most courts because she knows she can overburden the court and do it for free in the United States, where that kind of thing would never be allowed in Mexico. And she knows it's not allowed. And she knows that she's costing Americans thousands of dollars. I'll let you hear it from her own lips as she brags about attacking Americans on American soil and not having them be able to do anything about it because she doesn't live here. Because she's in Mexico, having a good old time at the expense of Americans and their money and their time and their blood, sweat, and tears, all while using our president's name to do that. And that's why tonight's show is going to be focused on the false protection orders that she routinely requests in a pattern of nuisance litigation against American citizens all across this beautiful country. And that is why we're going to analyze today her latest request for a restraining order against Mary Tando Quintanilla, one of the brave women who appeared on this program to expose the fraud, the deceit, the different tactics, the misuse of, different profiles, social media platforms, etc., to harass and threaten people online, witnessed by not only Mary Tando Quintanilla, but many others. Mary Tando Quintanilla came to talk about this bullying and why it is wrong. Why it's wrong that it was happening against her. Why it was wrong that it was happening against so many others that she witnessed. And any person that has come on this program to expose what they experienced with receipts, with videos, with pictures, with anecdotes of their personal experiences of what this woman did and didn't do, how she lied and defrauded them out of thousands of dollars, etc., etc. All of those people have been on the receiving end of this nuisance litigation, of these attacks on social media. And that is exactly why you need to know how this woman has been doing this and what you all, those of you who have experienced this harassment, can do about it. Because I have a suggestion that I think I've made in the past, but I think it's also, pertinent to bring it up again. There are states' attorney generals in the states where this woman has brought these, nuisance litigations, that if shown a pattern of the dozens of frivolous requests for restraining orders and ex parte hearings and civil harassment restraining orders, etc., and the multiple times that she has requested continuances, that she has bragged about mocking the American legal system, not just the litigants involved, but the system itself, the judges, the lawyers, all of them, wasting their time, making them waste thousands of dollars. There could be a criminal complaint brought against her, but at the very least, she could be placed on a list of nuisance litigants, like they have in California, like they have in many states. Or she could be prosecuted for filing a false request for a protection order. Or she could be sued in civil court for defamatory things that she published in these requests for restraining orders that are demonstrably not true, that are demonstrably made up or delusional figments of her imagination, that defame or slander people, multiple people, as she's done in the false protection order that she requested, that I'm going to be talking about tonight. First, I want to thank everyone that is here. I want to thank you for following up on what this woman has been doing to help document it, to help other victims of this woman, especially as they go forward with their litigations against her, and for supporting the work of this station. Because without your support, we couldn't do the jobs that we do. Right, Duke?
That's right. And, we're still in a pandemic, and we're still doing work. We do radio work. We run a radio station 24 hours a day. And there's work involved there. We run different programs, and we do these live streams. We're a Mexican Crossing Line, just one of our programs. And you can get a hold of us by, look at the bottom of the screen. You can leave a message on our message line at 701-566-0917. You can email me, Duke, at kpppfm.com, or Cindy at kpppfm.com. We're broadcasting, we're live streaming on Facebook and YouTube. YouTube Duke 1517. In fact, Miss Red Badger is watching, and she's been a supporter of ours for many months. And she says she made a contribution to us by hitting the super chat $sign there, and she said apparently donating tease Pigloma off, and LOL. And yes, it does. It bothers her. She's made all sorts of accusations that we're having people give us money and then we give it right back. She obviously doesn't understand how super chat works. Also, you can, if you're watching on Facebook, like to make a contribution, go to kpppfm.com/donate, make a donation. On that website, you'll find all of our programming. I actually have it all updated to the last show we did just 2 days ago. Everything is on there now, so you can look at all the shows there, or you can look at the YouTube list of Mexican Crossing Lines, or you can scrub through Facebook to find the videos there. So welcome. It's going to be a doozy of a show.
Folks, the press conference with President Trump has just concluded. He ended on a note where he talked about the difference between our country and other countries. other corrupt countries. And I'll tell you something. Like it or not, the American justice system is one of the best in the whole world. We still have a free press. We still have First Amendment rights in this country. Just ask people like Oscar El Ramirez. Ask reporters working in Mexico whether they have the right of free speech, the right to print the news, the right to speak out against injustice. They don't. People get killed every day. And let me tell you something. It is people like Paloma for Trump who think they can come into this country because they hold dual citizenship and take advantage of Americans with their Mexican cartel mentality, with their fascist socialist mentalities that come from the ideas of imposing censorship on media people like they do in Mexico. Silencing voices you don't want to hear from like they do in Mexico. Strong arm tactics that are used to threaten and intimidate people like they do in Mexico. And flaunting your thumb at the law, mocking the justice system like they do in Mexico. I have not seen somebody that has played with nuisance, litigated, and mocked the American justice system in the 20 plus years that I have worked as a paralegal, and probably 30 plus years that I have worked in the legal system as, court translator, etc., than this particular person. I've never seen anything like it.
Well, it's easy for her to lie. She's someone who can lie so easily and not have that sort of accountability, and she hasn't been held accountable. I'd like to thank Jerry Lee, made a very generous contribution in honor of P for T because she hates it. Yeah, she does. And thank you very much. And we're blessed to have the support of our viewers. And we just really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Yes, we are also very thankful that we can operate a business in this country.
Mm-hmm.
And we do everything on the up and up, out in the open. We have a license from the FCC. We have a nonprofit license in the state of Minnesota and North Dakota, and we are in compliance with all the laws. We applied for and received absentee ballots. We voted.
Yep.
We received stimulus checks because we have a bank account that is verified, just like we have a verified account that allows us to receive your donations through Super Chat.
That's
because
right.
We don't do things under the table.
Yeah, we file taxes, and that's, you had to file taxes in 2018, 2019 to get your stimulus check. And if you use direct deposit on your taxes, they make a deposit in the same bank that your taxes were dealt with. So very on the up and up.
What I'm trying to say is that even if, or despite the fact that Paloma holds dual citizenship, she doesn't live above board, out in the open. She doesn't report where she works, has no income to report, and yet complained about not receiving a stimulus check. You have to have a bank account. You have to report to the IRS. And if you haven't paid taxes, if you've failed to pay taxes, if you've hidden income that was taxable, and you have an amount that you owe to the IRS, it can be pulled from your account. Maybe there are other reasons why she hides her identity, but after seeing her post videos on YouTube of her and her husband committing fraud in Mexico, and seeing how in Mexico all of the reporters know her. The reporters know her. Do you remember the interview I showed you where the reporters knew her and asked her to prove that she actually lives in Tijuana? And she couldn't because she said she didn't have any form of ID on her, that she'd never registered for a social security number, that she doesn't have a voter ID or any of the normal forms of identification that everyone and anyone in Mexico can procure and have on her because someone had just stolen her purse at knife point. She never got a new person. She never got a new ID, and she never got any of the new identifications needed. In fact, recently, Paloma Zúñiga, in a live stream, spoke about the fact that she had taken her mountain of evidence that she claims to have against Oscar El Blue Ramirez, a reporter whose life and work she covets but cannot replicate, and Anthony Agüero, another live streamer in the United States who has an abundant following that she cannot replicate. She said that she gave this information about the investigation she was doing, all of the hot tea she had on Oscar El Blue Ramirez, to a well-known reporter by the name of Alfredo Alvarez, and that he didn't do anything with it. You know what that indicates to me? He didn't see it had any merit or value. You gave all of this great evidence about a local reporter, claiming that this local reporter has committed theft, prostitution, and a multitude of other horrible, horrid things that you've published in public. You and your friends have published in public, and he didn't bite. He didn't report on it. He didn't even respond to you. It's because you gave him a load of hogwash. Hogwash. And he knew it. He wouldn't have anything to do with something like that because he's an ethical man and he knows BS when he sees it. You know who Alfredo Alvarez did talk to and collaborate with on the stories about the caravans and the Antifa that were in his town? Yours truly.
Mm-hmm.
And I called him out of the blue, sent him the messages, and we began to communicate. And I sent him the information. He was very interested in talking to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he reported on the information I gave him. That's the difference between somebody like Oscar and somebody like you that has zero credibility. And this is exactly the reason why she feels that she can act with impunity to harass people through these litigations that she knows go nowhere, that simply waste the time of people like Mary Tando Quintanilla, that has an adult granddaughter that is disabled and nonverbal, who she's going to have to find a babysitter for, and plan to drive to court and have her entire day wasted, like she recently did, in another one of these cases that resulted in a judge finding that Paloma and her claims of harassment had zero merit. Zero. Let me show you, because I've showed you from this previous transcript of the hearing where the judge told her he couldn't find any evidence of harassment. He couldn't find any evidence of Mary saying anything that she didn't truly believe and that she felt was based on her experience of Paloma. And that the judge said that what Paloma was doing in requesting this restraining order was flying in the face of Mary's First Amendment rights. That's what she said. That's what the judge said. That Mary had a right to say what she said. And that Paloma couldn't do anything about it. But she wasn't happy with that. That's why she filed another request for another restraining order on the same merits. Other than the fact that she's now included Anthony Agüero and Oscar El Blue Ramirez and a woman named Heidi Eslick, and mentions a whole slew of other people that have nothing to do with her claims of harassment. There's really nothing different in this request from the one that she already lost, was already found to be baseless, meritless. Let me go through the other things that were kicked out of the courtroom. This is from the transcript. So the judge starts off So, all right, ma'am, I remember reading this, and to be honest with you, I was a little bit confused about your declaration in terms of what the harassment is. What I can gather is there is some sort of relationship, and I don't mean like a romantic relationship, but some relation between both of you, that you're in some political organization and that you interact with each other in some capacity, and that there were other, I guess, things in terms of your personal lives that came up. I really couldn't discern what you were trying to present. That was a long-winded way of saying, I've read your complaint. I've tried to understand it. I speak English, and this looks like English, but makes no sense. And then he says this about her speech, her talking. She starts going, and he says, hold on for a second. You need to slow down because you're starting to speak really quickly. Because I don't want to break her hands, he motions over to the court reporter. I want you to get to the point of where the harassment starts, okay? What happens? Go. And she goes off again. So the lady came to get me from the green room, and off she goes again into not answering the question of the judge. And he tells her again, she needs to get to the part where the harassment is, because none of the things that she is saying are part of her request for a restraining order. And she's going on. And the judge says, please stop. Where are you being harassed? This reminds me of like Chris Tucker.
Yeah.
When he's talking to Jackie Chan in that movie, he goes, can you understand the words that are coming out of my mouth? Yeah, the judge is like, can you speak English? Do you understand what I'm trying to say to you? Please stop. Where are you being harassed? Paloma says, no, not yet. And the judge says, I know, not yet, crazy. Well, he doesn't say that. He says, I know. That's why I'm asking you. I need it to get to your harassment, not everybody else. Where do you get harassed? And do you think that that was enough for Paloma to understand that the judge was getting tired of her BS? No, it wasn't. Then this happened. She kept going. And then the judge said, ma'am, stop. Please. I am going to ask you for the third time. When are you getting harassed? Get to the point where you are getting harassed, Paloma. Well, the judge, this is not harassment of you. This is, you're describing things that are happening with her, but you're not describing how you're getting harassed. And then she comes up with this. The judge, she's playing a video of my show where Mary Quintanilla is being interviewed. The judge stops the video. He says, it appears that the respondent, Mary, is talking to someone, that's me, the show host, someone who is video blogger or something, and she's saying something about a Las Vegas rally and she's being late, etc. What is it about this particular situation in which she, Mary, is harassing you, Paloma? One of my witnesses wrote a letter with the minutes. Judge, hold on a second. listen to my question. What is it about this video that is harassing you? Paloma, she calls me a prostitute. Judge, okay. Paloma, she calls me a pedophile. She says I abuse my animals. Judge, in this, Paloma, in that video. Okay. Now, spoiler alert, in my last show, I told you the end, the decision by the judge. I read you the decision by the judge. The exacerbated, please, I'm so tired of you, it's my turn to talk, decision of the judge, where he says, this is free speech, you don't have a claim, goodbye. Mm-hmm. So you already know how this all ends. I'm just showing you how exacerbated the judge was by the time he got there. So you don't go away from this thinking that maybe Paloma's English is so poor that she went to this other hearing, had all of this evidence thrown out, had it explained to her by a judge why it wasn't reliable, why it wasn't evidence, why it wasn't admissible, and that somehow she still didn't understand that none of the things that she's presented to a judge before as evidence of harassment are anything. Because she knows. Because she does know. Because she does understand. She was told repeatedly, and this isn't the first time that she has been told. She's been told in other cases when she tries to present similar evidence that came from secret pages that she affixes to a particular individual, whoever she is suing that day, whoever she's taking to court that day. No, she understands, and what I want you to understand is that she knows that what she is requesting isn't harassment. She understands it. She's been told it multiple times. So the fact that she keeps going back to get another bite at the apple, to go judge shopping from one county to another in a country she don't even live in or pay taxes in or works, is an abuse of our American justice system by a person that affixes the name of our president to hers to give her the agency to attack American people on American soil. That's what I need you to understand. And then she came up with this. They really wanted my animals, so I showed them my animals. She's talking about a video she made after Mary Tando appeared on my program showing some of her animals. They wanted to see what they look like, and I made a video of my animals, a live video. 3 days after I made that video of my animals, one of them I had for 12 years, they were murdered. Dun, dun, dun. This is a picture of one of my animals. Judge, I understand, ma'am. Paloma, she was murdered. Judge, ma'am, did you see anyone murder the animal? Paloma, I came home and they were murdered. Judge, I can't make any distinction about whether or not she, Mary, had anything to do with them. Paloma, I understand. Court, judge, okay, is there anything else you want to submit? Oh, yes, there's much more, says Paloma. Oh, yeah, she's been harassing people I work with. I have communications from. Judge, well, I'm not going to get into that because that's their own harassment. I want to focus on your harassment, not anybody else. So, is there anything else? And then she says this. The same allegations that she makes on the video or page called clapback season. Judge, do me a favor. Paloma, sure. Judge, on those particular documents, Can you mark which one says something like you're a pedophile, animal abuser, something like that? Paloma, sure. She's also made threats. Judge, ma'am, do me a favor. I don't mean to be rude. I just want you to do that first and then we'll talk, okay? I want you to do one thing at a time. Look at the information and mark where that has occurred. Paloma, here's one. She calls me pedophile. Well, here's a statement. It's on. They also called for me to kill myself. Court. Judge, hold on a second. I'm going to have the deputy show the other party first. So, what happens next is that the deputy walks over with a text message or messenger message from Sandra Woods that was sent to Paloma, claiming, it doesn't even talk about the video, but Paloma claims that it is Sandra Woods' interpretation of what Mary said about her. And then this happens. Mary says she objects because that's not a statement from her. It's a statement from Sandra Wood accusing her of saying that she called Paloma a pedophile, and she said she never called her that. So the judge says, okay, so ma'am, this particular document that you gave me, how do you establish that it is Mary? How do you, he turns back over to Paloma and says, okay, how does this belong to Mary? How can you say that this is what Mary said? Paloma says, it's the comments that people have made from watching the videos, sir. The judge says, I understand, but how do you know that Mary made them? Paloma says, it's on the video. She called me pedophile. Judge, I'm talking about this document. Paloma, no. It was a message where somebody is telling me Mary is calling you a pedophile. Judge, okay, all right. Well, that's going to be in the next exhibit. I'm not going to take that into consideration. So, out that goes. Text message from Sandra Woods, useless. It's someone else's opinion about what Mary, interpreting what Mary might have said, which she never said. Next, he says, that was the last one. Now, I'm going to read from the transcript next, honey. I'm at page 16. And this is a continuation of where she was talking. He was asking her if she has anything else that she wants to enter, because he said, I understand that you stated that she's made allegations and that they're on the video. And I'm going to have to go back into chambers and look at the video a little bit more because I didn't hear those things. So he's actually looked at the stuff, didn't hear any of the things, and he's going to go back with all those timestamps that I showed you on my previous show and try to listen for what she heard. Is there anything else? And then Paloma says, I would like to turn this in, but I couldn't submit them to the court because all the witnesses are, if their names get out, her entire crew, she has a hate group on Facebook against me. It's called Fraud at the Border. They will be harassed. Judge. Okay, so basically you want to give me statements from unknown people that I can't cross-examine. Paloma, you can over the phone, or if they're willing to testify. The judge, we don't do that. Paloma, okay. Judge, you can imagine how many people behind me. I don't have time to make phone calls to go find witnesses and talk to them. They're supposed to be brought to court. Paloma, if you could at least maybe read one of them. Judge, I can't because I can't cross-examine them. I don't know the veracity. I don't know who these people are, so I'm not going to accept that. Is there anything else? Paloma. So I have the police report where she was causing a disturbance at the event. Judge. Okay. And that police report states what? Paloma, that she's being thrown out by security for being a credible threat. It says that she said that she was there to serve me with the restraining order, which said she had already 2 hours. She had already for 2 hours prior before the police arriving. And that security asked her, she refused to leave. So they called 911, and that 911 requested for her to leave for being a credible threat to me. So, of course, that was not accepted either, as you know. But I wanted you to hear more of the argumentative fashion in which she went back and forth and exacerbated this judge to the point where he was like, look, I don't mean to be rude, but you are driving me up a wall, lady. Like, this guy was totally... So, a lot of people... Even in the last show that I did, because she admitted in this that she doesn't live in the United States, and she admitted that she had a warrant out for her arrest, someone asked in the show, why wasn't she arrested? Well, folks, first of all, warrants are specific to a state. Even if you committed a crime like murder, and you're in another state where the warrant for your arrest was not issued, you have to be extradited. The state in which you live and that prosecutor in that state have to pony up the cash to have you transported from that jail to this jail because you're a high value criminal that they want to prosecute for a high value crime. Somebody having a restraining order in another state is not going to be the priority of other states in terms of spending money and having them extradited.
Yep.
So, unless you're talking about a bigger crime, a felony probably, and there is a lot of different charges behind it, they're not going to extradite or arrest that person on the spot and tell them, because what they're going to then they're going to have to hold them, and for whom? New Jersey isn't going to transport that person over. But I wanted to also explain to you why people can get away with lying in order to get one of these protection orders or restraining orders. In addition to the fact that most of the time, as I explained to you, a temporary restraining order is almost always granted because they prefer to err on the side of good judgment in protecting any potential victim from imminent threat, even though they will schedule a hearing shortly thereafter and then take a look at the merits and the evidence that substantiate whether or not this is an actual threat. At which point, most of these cases, and in fact almost every single one in Paloma's case, have failed. So why does this person feel comfortable lying? Well, one of the reasons is that if you lie about lie about a protection order, you can be sued. What if someone lies? If you lie about a material fact in a restraining order that is one likely to influence a judge, then you're vulnerable to prosecution by the court or the district attorney for felony perjury. You may also be prosecuted in civil court, sued by the person that you lie about. In this case, that would be Mary, for defamation, false light, fraud, etc. Yes, and I would say it's more likely that Mary would sue than that a prosecutor would go after for perjury, and I'll tell you why that is in just a minute. But there's another reason why, especially in the state of California, Paloma feels so comfortable about going and filing these types of requests for restraining orders, and that is because they don't cost her anything. If this was something that was constantly costing her money and attorney's fees and or any other kind of major cost, she couldn't afford it. She wouldn't be doing any of this. But let me tell you how much civil harassment orders cost in the state of California. And this is from California's own statutes. You can see here, it says, if you're requesting the civil harassment order against a person who was violent, threatened you with violence, stalked you, or acted or spoke in any other way that made you reasonably fear violence, there is no fee for filing or serving that order for a subpoena related to the case or to respond to a petition based on these acts. In other cases, you may have to pay a fee unless you qualify for a fee waiver. So in the case where she says she feels that she was stalked or harassed, even when there's no merit, absolutely no merit to any of her claims, she can totally abuse the system. And there is more than one way in which she is mocking and abusing our justice system. She isn't just attacking American citizens on American soil while hiding in Mexico. She isn't just lying about jurisdiction because she doesn't live here. She doesn't have residency in the United States. She doesn't live anywhere, and she hasn't for at least the last 6 months. She also is taking advantage of the fact that she is getting the state to pay for her frivolous lawsuits. What kind of a deadbeat does that? Has the state pay for all their frivolous lawsuits against other people, Duke?
Well, and also the thing that bothers me is that domestic violence programs, there's been advocates and organizations that have worked for years to make it so it started out primarily women would have an avenue to get out of these and protection for these abusive relationships. And it was so hard, police wouldn't take anything seriously, the courts wouldn't take anything serious. So there's been years and years and years of work done to create these avenues for people who have been abused and who are harassed. And like I said, it was mainly women. It was abused women's services, all sorts of advocates for domestic violence. And they created these ways, especially in California, these ways for people to get access to the courts, and especially women of color and people of color too. And so it bothers me that she's going in for something that was established for people who really have a reason to need this and is abusing it, because what can happen from that is they'll start tightening down, and people that really deserve to get these protection orders are going to have a harder time getting them because of someone like Paloma.
She takes advantage not only of migrants at the border by pushing them and making them pee on themselves, all in the name of her celebrity or her movie that she's in. She also takes advantage of Americans by these nuisance lawsuits and restraining orders. She takes advantage of the Violence Against Women Act and the protection of women in America from violence from their partners or spouses, so that they waive the fees, and they usually hand out these restraining orders pretty quickly to harass and attack Americans who've done nothing, absolutely nothing to her. So let me just share with you what another American citizen that's had to deal with this, what they had to say about what can be done when someone files a false protection order against you if they lied and perjured themselves in the complaint or the order. Can you sue them for harassment? And he says, this guy published this publicly about being married and divorced and going through somebody doing, his ex-wife doing the same thing to him. He says people who make up completely bogus restraining orders are never prosecuted for perjury, even if the narrative is definitively proven to be utterly impossible. This is because the family courts do not want to discourage actual abused women from successfully fleeing their abusers. Better safe than sorry, after all. And that means if some innocent people have their freedoms taken away and rot in jail for a while, and maybe lose their jobs and the right to keep or bear arms, that's too bad. Society is quote unquote better when women get the latitude to subvert the justice system at will. And at the end, he goes on to say, yes, you can attempt to sue for harassment. You can sue for anything in the United States. Just because you feel harassed doesn't mean that you will win the case. And that's true. And in order to do that, you have to have tens of thousands of dollars. So in order for you to defend yourself against someone that uses a law that waives the fee for her to file all of these nuisance litigations for abused women when she doesn't even live in this country and has no right to file any kind of request for a restraining order against anyone because she doesn't have any fear or threat from them since she doesn't live in this country. But she abuses every part of the system on its way there. In South Carolina, you could go to jail for filing a false protection order. If you file a false order request for protection, knowingly and willingly presenting false, fictitious, or fraudulent, information, you're guilty of a felony, and upon conviction, you must be fined not more than $5,000 or imprisoned for not more than 5 years, or both, at the discretion of the court. And by the way, the respondent, the other person that you filed this against, they have the right to recover their attorney's fees and costs for filing in the court because of your bogus request. But not in California. Not in California, folks. Not in a lot of states, unfortunately. So people like her, who not just do it once, but do it repeatedly as a sort of game, usually face no repercussions. And the only thing that you can expect to happen to them as a result of their behavior is if somebody puts them on a list and they are no longer allowed to file these kinds of claims unless they get permission from a judge. So listen carefully, guys. If you live in California, and you are one of the more than a dozen people this woman has brought fraudulent, fake request for a restraining order, a civil harassment order, you need to take it up with California's Attorney General. Here's what you need to do. Take a look. In California, it says there is a vexation litigant list containing the names of several thousands individuals and companies who've been deemed vexatious. So you have to be deemed vexatious, and it tells you all of the things that are required to meet that threshold. But if you repeatedly make motions, and these motions are so devoid of any merit as to be frivolous, that they can be described as a flagrant abuse of the system, have no reasonable probability of success, lack reasonable or probable cause or excuse, and are clearly meant to abuse the process of the courts and to harass the adverse party, then you could get put on this list. So you need to make sure to report with evidence all of the other vexatious litigations that she has put forth in California. She needs to be on that list for sure.
Yeah, that's for sure.
And she needs to stop using America, which she has totally been abusing and using for a very long time. And listen from her own mouth how she talks about how she crosses merchandise, makes money off of merchandise she buys in Mexico, marking it up in Mexico. And how she claims to feel that she is entitled to make a business off of American people. And this is her words.
And that's what Americans do, right? Americans sell stuff at a profit for money, right? It's called a business. It's called free enterprise. It's called merchandising. It's called capitalism, right?
Here's her things that she sold. Her Trump hats. Her Trump stickers. Her Trump t-shirts. Her mug.
No, and I call myself a taxpayer because I buy in America. I buy my merchandise in America. I buy my groceries in America. I even buy my dog food in America, which is a lot of it. And we pay taxes for all these purchases, whether it's sales tax. I don't work in America, so I don't pay taxes in America. That's funny. The money you get from your company, you spend in Mexico because you spend all your time there. Yes, I spend most of my time in Mexico, sometimes in America.
So I spend money in both places. The profits that I get from my business, I spend them anywhere I want because I could spend them in Europe and I would still be okay. Yeah.
People come from Mexico and they just come here to take advantage of anything they can. They don't respect it. They just want to use it, take from it, use it.
By any means. Do you understand that I live in Mexico and what that would cost in my life?
Right. She lives in Mexico. I don't work in America, so I don't pay taxes. I don't work in America. She doesn't work in America and she doesn't live in America. She comes over the border. She comes over the border a lot. But you know what else I believe? I think she uses America. She lives underground. She makes money under the table. She doesn't report her bank accounts. She won't even monetize her YouTube channel because it would put her on the radar, and she doesn't want to be on the radar. Not in Mexico, not in the United States. Remember, she wouldn't give an identification and said she didn't even have IDs in Mexico. She doesn't even speak English properly, as I showed you yesterday. She doesn't understand American concepts like free speech. She doesn't understand that you can't strong arm people into silence and use tactics like they use in Mexico on American soil against Americans to silence those who speak out against her. The only reason that she uses words like mob stalking is because Trump has used those words to describe people like Antifa. She borrows bits and pieces of phrases that she hears from other people used against her, used to describe her, or used to describe bad folks. Like Leonie calling her a socialist and her then using that to attack other people. She does not live in America. She lives in Mexico. That's from her own lips. Who would choose to live in Tijuana? Now remember, this is a person that calls people low-life Mexicans because they make their own food, because they don't have homes in Valle del Bravo, because they didn't study at these supposedly high-class schools like La Ibero, where her and Jorge Ramos went to school. If you have homes in multiple places in Mexico, why can't you have an apartment even in the United States? Why do you have to register to vote with a P.O. box? Why would you commit voter fraud and say that you voted for Donald Trump in the 2016 election when everyone knows you never voted before because you said you were never interested in American politics and never voted in this country? You don't even know what our political system looks like or sounds like or works like. Every time you've had to do a presentation or speaking engagement, you have embarrassed any organization you've spoken on behalf of because you don't know America from a hole in the ground. Not its politics, not its people, not its values, not its justice system. And that's why I think she decided she would commit voter fraud so that she could claim to care about the president and claim to care about American politics.
Yeah,
Don't
I've been thinking a lot about that. But before I tell you my opinion, I wanted to thank some of our supporters. Wes Sider made a contribution of $10, and we thank you very much for that support. Also, Allison Moran made a $10 contribution. The truth will be the truth with receipts. And then Sniper made a $20 contribution. Thank you, always speaking the truth, and we really appreciate that support. You know, with the voter fraud. If y'all remember, if you go to YouTube and go to my channel, Duke1517, you can watch about 10-minute clip that I did a while back about, looking at what Paloma was saying about voting in the 2016 election. And I have a little snippet from that. I want to play that before I tell you what I've thought about lately. And this was done not too long ago, but it's only a 1-minute clip of that. So makes you wonder. Voter fraud. Now, I'm just saying that the information I have, and I can plug it into the Secretary of State's site and come up with Paloma's actual verification that she's registered to vote. But when you dig deeper and look at the actual address that she uses she doesn't live there. And remember, she just did a video talking about she's lived in Tijuana for over 11 years continually. So, it's interesting that it may be voter fraud, and her receipt was posted on her page. She's very proud of it, and no one's bothered to check where she really lives. So I submit to you that Paloma for Trump has potentially committed voter fraud. And what that means, it means two things. One, she could be potentially guilty of a crime if she was investigated with the same information. I'm not doing that, I'm just exposing it. And the second thing is that her vote should not have counted because it would be a spoiled ballot. It would be an invalid vote. That's true. But she keeps on saying, voter fraud, I didn't commit voter fraud. And you know what I really thought about? Maybe Paloma for Trump did not commit voter fraud.
What?
Maybe she didn't commit voter fraud. You know why? Because I don't think she even voted. So if she didn't vote,
Oh my
and she had everything set up fraudulently and she didn't cast her ballot, she didn't commit voter fraud because she didn't vote.
She probably didn't vote. You're right. That's why she keeps saying she never voted.
That's right, and that's my opinion.
She couldn't have, because if she voted, we know that she voted. She registered to vote with the PO box, which is committing voter fraud.
Yep.
So the only way she could have not committed voter fraud is if she actually didn't vote. And remember, she did try to explain that she had an address, but she was evicted from it for non-payment of rent.
Yeah.
You can't claim to use that address to vote
If you don't live there.
if you don't live there anymore because you were squatting. Like you were squatting in Mexico. Let me explain for everyone. This is the reason why my show is a Mexican Crossing Lines is because as an American-born citizen of these United States, yours truly, who has ancestors living in Mexico still to this day, speaks Spanish, has lived and studied in both countries and worked in both countries. And I feel like I have a unique perspective to share with you, especially when it comes to explaining people like her. Let me tell you why it is especially interesting that there is a judgment against her for squatting and not paying her rent in Mexico. It's very interesting that online allegations of her renting a space for her so-called animal shelter and leaving these animals in squalor and not having paid her rent for months on end, plus the fact that she herself has accepted that she was evicted from the location where she was living in 2015, right before the election, that she claims couldn't have been voter fraud because she was living in a place that they evicted her from unfairly. That's why it wasn't voter fraud. They evicted her unfairly. Why it's so significant that there's so many examples of her not paying her rent. One of them being here in the United States. And that is because unlike here in the United States, which really, really ticked her off, because that landlord went, I'm going to throw your things on the street and evict you. And she was like, this is an illegal eviction. Because in Mexico, she squatted for months and months and months, and it was very hard to get her out. And the people that got her out had to probably spend a lot of money. The reason I know this is because my family owned properties in Mexico, and somebody took advantage of the squatters' laws in Mexico. You probably don't know this, but in Mexico, if let's say you have a rental, or you have a property that you're renting and you haven't gone back and visited it for a while, and somebody breaks into your house and starts living there, and you can't get them out of there through litigation because they game the system, they use loopholes, they get extensions, they don't show up for court, they try to bleed you dry, you paying attorney's fees, them not paying attorney's fees because they're poor, whatever they claim the reason they're squatting in your house is. And if they can outrun the clock, after a certain number of years, they get to keep your property. They get to steal your property. They get to keep it and live there, and there's not a GD thing you could do about it. That's why in Mexico, if you try to fight against a squatter, you may end up spending all of your money litigating it to try to get the squatter out. More or even above the price of the property you're trying to get him out of. Especially if it takes years and years and years, which because of the rights that they give to squatters in Mexico, above the landowners, above the landlords, gives them an advantage there. And she tried to do that here. It didn't work out so good for her here. Didn't work out in the same way. But I believe that just like she likes to do that to game the system, the legal system, to her advantage in Mexico, she tried to bring that here to the U.S. But maybe you're right, Duke. Maybe she didn't commit voter fraud. Maybe she didn't vote at all.
That's
and
right.
that would be par for course because you can't really believe anything that she says that she does.
Yep, exactly.
But let's take a look at this new request for a restraining order, which again is pretty much the same as the one that she's already lost. And look at some of the crazy allegations that she makes. She claims here, if you'll recall, on my last program, we were talking about the fact that she accused Anthony Agüero of promoting the show, my show, which is harassment, to his 100,000 followers. Then she talks about how nice she is. In juxtaposition to these horrible people that have done nothing but harass and threaten her, she, the great, magnanimous, kind woman that she is, helped Mary Tando. More like she helped herself to Mary Tando and her kindness and her hospitality, taking her on trips, putting her up at the Trump Hotel, taking her to rallies, and offering her a job at her home, which Paloma accepted and got paid for with American dollars. She talks about it in this, saying that as a nice gesture and under some pressure, I helped Miss Quintanilla watch her adult granddaughter a couple times as she traveled around the country in support of Donald Trump, promoting herself, trying to become a well-known personality, promoting her activism and promoting organizations she wished to collaborate with that she does not collaborate with, however, as her work has not been relevant nor requested by any organization. Miss Quintanilla wished I would become a full-time caretaker for her granddaughter while she traveled in exchange for living at her house free of charge, claiming I would have a much better life with her, unsure as to why she would believe that, as I do not need anything from her. My family and myself own 3 houses where I am perfectly happy, and I never requested any type of living assistance from her. However, she claims she is a millionaire and is better than everyone else, while receiving constant benefits from the state and gloating about it, as well as the fact that she receives unreported income. Pot calling kettle black.
Yeah, really, she does a lot of projection.
Lots of projection, because she wants to talk about Mary receiving benefits for her adult disabled granddaughter for her care. That's what the money is there for. There is a fund that ensures that people that are adults with disabilities like her, whose parents and grandparents many times have been paying into the system for decades, are cared for in this country. I know that may be shocking to you because in Mexico they don't have those kinds of systems, but here in America we do. And you can be as jealous as you want of Mary Tando Quintanilla because the government offers her, pays her some of the care. It's probably a tiny fraction of everything that Mary Tando Quintanilla has provided for her granddaughter and her granddaughter's care. Did you want to say something?
Or just that, disability benefit payments aren't that high.
They're very, very low.
People stay in poverty, and for someone to have home care and keep them out of institutions. It's a much better life. And actually, they'll put people in institutions and nursing homes, and it cost the government a heck of a lot more money.
Yeah.
But they aren't willing to reimburse the actual cost of what it really costs to have someone be cared for at home. So it's a
point,
messed up system. And when someone takes care of one of their family members, they want them to have quality of life, and they're sacrificing to do that.
Yeah, Mary is definitely making a sacrifice, mostly out of her own pocket, to give her granddaughter the quality of care she would never have gotten had she been institutionalized, which she could have ended up being, and which I'm sure Paloma would love more than anything else to rip away from Mary Quintanilla what she loves the most, which is her granddaughter. And she says that Mary is a millionaire and calls her a chandelier and refers to her expensive makeup and her trips and the things that she has of Mary's that Paloma covets, because she loves to covet what others have that she doesn't have. And she is jealous of the fact that Mary Tando Quintanilla has these things. If Paloma did not ask Mary Tando Quintanilla, saying that she was scared to be in Mexico because she feared for her life, as Mary Tando said in her very first interview on this program, there would have been no reason for Mary Tando Quintanilla to go randomly find Paloma the celebrity at some speaking engagement and go, "Hey, you want to come and live at my house?" No, that's not. And after taking on not only Paloma, but also her husband, and having them live in her home for weeks, having to buy all their food and take care of everything that they needed while at her house, providing them with everything they could want and need, this woman has the audacity to claim that she did a favor to Mary Tando Quintanilla. And it was under pressure, by the way, because she didn't really want to do it, even though she got paid. And what she actually did was verbally abuse an adult, nonverbal, disabled woman that she was put in the care of. That's what she did. Here's the video of Paloma for Trump, Paloma Zuniga, videotaping herself abusing Jasmine, the granddaughter of Mary Tando Quintanilla, because she's angry that she got cut off during her highfalutin interview. Take a listen for yourselves. Might have to boost the sound here a little bit.
Roy, thank you. Nice meeting you yesterday. Okay, bye-bye. Bye-bye. They fucking cut me off.
You can see the 2 feet down there. Jasmine's feet. And
¿Qué, güey? ¿Quieres hacerlo tú o hazlo tú? No, le digo a ella, güey. Está aquí.
¿Quieres hacerlo tú, güey? Hazlo tú. You want to do this yourself? Do it yourself. You want to do this yourself, dummy? Do it yourself. She calls this woman a dummy. Way to rub in the fact that she cannot speak. Way to abuse a person that cannot defend themselves. Are you proud of your abusive nature, Paloma? Because that is what you are talking about in this request for a restraining order. You're saying you were nice. It was a nice gesture on your part. Was it a nice gesture on your part to go over and abuse Mary Tando Quintanilla's hospitality and her granddaughter? They effing cut me off, she says in great anger. And then, because Jasmine has been sitting in a dirty diaper this whole time while she gave her all-important interview, that she was neglecting the care of the person she was supposed to be caring for. Mary Tando wasn't paying you to do interviews on the phone while you neglected her granddaughter, left her sitting in her own filth, and then yelled at her and abused her because she was desperate to have her diaper changed. She was paying you to be decent, not even to be nice, to just be decent, the bare minimum. And you couldn't do that. And then she brags on the audio to her husband because he's like, what? What are you yelling at? And she's like, oh, no, it wasn't for you. I was telling her. Because she's sitting over here getting all frustrated. Listen what she says to her husband. Rewind it a little bit.
No, le digo a ella, güey. Está aquí como desesperada. Le digo, güey, ¿quieres poner tu propio pañal? Préstalo tú.
No, I was talking to her because she's acting all desperate. So I'm saying, hey, dummy, you want to put your own diaper on? Put it on yourself.
¿Eh? Oye, que se quitó el pañal. Hold on, Jasmine. Hold on.
So then she talks to him. You can hear him muttering in the background. It's difficult to hear what he says, but Paloma repeats some of what he's talking about. And it's the fact that while waiting in her desperation to have her diaper changed, she removed the dirty diaper during the interview. So she had to stand there naked because she can't put on, she doesn't have the physical ability because she's handicapped. She doesn't have lower strength in her legs. She has to drag herself around many times. She's in a wheelchair many times. She needs to be carried many times. This woman had to took off these diapers because they were dirty during the interview because she was waiting for Paloma, who was neglecting her. And the response that this young woman received for her desperate request for assistance was abuse. That is the opposite of what she is claiming in here. Do you understand how disgusting it is that the reality of what she is talking about is literally the opposite of what she did? I helped this woman. I was doing all these things for her and her granddaughter. What you did was abuse. That's what you did. Let's look at page 4 of the restraining order. She goes on with more crazy allegations. Here is page 4 of the restraining order where she talks about Michael Shapiro and goes into all sorts of things that are completely irrelevant about Michael Shapiro and his case in New Jersey against her, and how she claims that there is some other charges against him and that he's got another restraining order because other women are putting these things against Michael Shapiro. I mean, and then she has the audacity to say that Michael Shapiro has been labeled as the East Coast MAGA pervert by members of the Donald Trump movement. No, Paloma. It's just you. You're the only one that has ever called him and had a page called the East Coast MAGA pervert. That was you. That was only you. And you are not a legitimate part of the Trump or the MAGA movement. You don't even live in America. You don't pay taxes here. You don't work here. All you do is file frivolous lawsuits and attack conservatives. That's all you do for the MAGA movement, the conservative movement. Attack it and its members. Let's take a look at the comments I posted on this page. This is further down on the same page. She's talking about how Mary, brought a temporary restraining order, and that the reason that Mary got this restraining order and then went to a place, the reason that she's been hounding her with this restraining order is because she intends to use it to provoke her to violate it. How can someone provoke you to violate? Nobody can cause you to become violent or to violate a restraining order unless you want to. But that's what she's claiming. She's claiming Mary took out this restraining order to get Paloma to violate the order, provoke me, and then film the incident and force me to violate the order. Force you. Provocations which I ignored inside the Los Angeles courthouse. She's talking about when she went to the Los Angeles courthouse in one of the last cases that we have this transcript for, in which she claims that Mary kept walking by her as she was sitting down, screaming things at Paloma, filming and putting her phone in Paloma's face as she sat there quietly ignoring her. And then Mary uploaded screenshots of this harassment to her personal account. Now, just let me stop for a minute there to tell you that, as you know, I did a blow-by-blow on what happened at that court hearing, because I heard from people that were part of the hearing, as well as people that were in the courthouse outside of the hearing room, that overheard and recorded parts of the conversations that took place and sent me photos. She claims it was Mary that did that. She is so full of garbage. I don't know how she can get away with constantly making any and all kinds of unfounded claims. But here it is in black and white. And she goes on to say that she attaches a photograph, which I think is the one I'm going to show you here in a second. But she says, take a look at this photograph where she doctored my picture to make me appear much larger and heavier than I am in real life. I currently weigh 125 pounds, and in Mary's photograph, I appear to be at least 30 to 40 pounds larger. Oh my God. She is claiming that Mary, who has difficulty with all forms of technology, not only used Photoshop, which Paloma uses it like a serial photo shopper, to alter her appearance on the day of that court in order to make her look fat when she is not. She believes, I want you to understand what this means. Paloma believes that she can go back in time and alter the fact that she looked like a meatball by putting into a new request for a restraining order that Mary did some kind of magic or witchcraft or Photoshop and then uploaded a picture of her that was fake to make her look fat when she never was.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Oh my God. So take a look at this picture. Let's go to the, I'll get to that picture in a minute. Let's go on to the next section here in the page with comments. And it says, during the original hearing held at this court, it says, Honorable Justice in Los Angeles found that we both have freedom of speech and it's allowed as we are public figures. So that was her sentence explaining that she lost.
Yeah.
She lost her request for a restraining order in the past. She doesn't come out and say that, but she says it in a roundabout way. And then let's go to the next sentence after that. And it says there that he found it to be freedom of speech on both sides and did not find a reason to extend nor grant any order. So Mary has had this particular restraining order. When he extended the temporary restraining order, he did so for Mary Tando Quintanilla. And she is upset about that because she believes that violates her First Amendment. I don't think you understand what the First Amendment means. The First Amendment means Mary has the right to free speech. Her restraining order is one on you because what you did wasn't considered free speech. What you did was considered harassment. That's why she has a temporary restraining order on you. And then in the next sentence, it says that she believes this restrains her free speech, violates her free speech, putting her at even higher risk for her and incite her to follow and stalk me even more with the purpose of making me violate the restraining order. And then she goes on to say that Mary Quintanilla is actually a Trump supporter, but she denies it. And that her friend Fabiana Baldo, who lives in New York, is also a Trump supporter, but also denies that she's a Trump supporter. They deny Trump, and they gang stalk her. And that a woman by the name of Karen Spain verified this to her, and that all of this will be, in addition to these people looking for her on the internet, they will donate to her dog. They will donate dog food to her animal shelter so that once she goes to pick it up, they can be there, and she will be arrested for violating the temporary restraining order, as well as assault her physically by Heidi Eslick, who's also a Trump supporter and one of the members of their groups.
Wow.
Cuckoo. That's the basis on which she would like this new judge to give her a restraining order against Mary. Because Mary's restraining order, in her mind, is only there so that Mary can show up at places and go, "Ha, you violated the restraining order." And then have Heidi Eslick jump out. And her and the group that she's with all beat her up when she's picking up her dog food.
Yeah.
It's all delusional and crazy, and it gets worse. In this next page, she has this to say. I've waited patiently for the hearing on this temporary restraining order, as she did not originally meet the burden of proof to have this order granted. But it was granted. It was granted, even though you don't like it. It was granted. She says that now she poses a greater risk to her. She can't post her location anywhere. She constantly has to hide her lieabouts and lie about where she will be because she doesn't want this woman to initiate another confrontation like she did at the LA courthouse. Of course, we have audios and photographs and witnesses that were all there that day that know that none of that is true. We played them on the show. She made all of this up, and she's still using the same lie today. And then she says, and this is another lie, of course, I have not left my house for the last 5 months, as I am terrified she will find me, try to frame me, as they have done to others, by abusing this order and do something erratic, such as jumping in front of my car, or as she has stated, throw acid in my face or my hair, as she has claimed that she will make me go bald by the end of the year 2020. I have very abundant hair, which she seems to have a big issue with, and have made many threats that I will be bald by the end of this year with her dummy account by the name of Beth Martinez. Also, during the original hearing held at this court, she audio recorded the entire hearing, only to have her friend, Cindy Gomez-Schempp, relate every part of it during one of their radio shows for thousands to see. The exposure of the hearing held on February 10, 2020 on the show was verbatim, which could only have been possible by having a recorded audio of it recorded by Miss Quintanilla. No, some people
Have good memories.
have an attention span. You have the attention span of a gnat. You can't remember what you're talking about in the same sentence. I've seen your videos. There are other people, however, that do have attention, that don't have some deficit in being able to listen and recall what happened, or immediately cut off what was heard and switch it and spin it. And here's something else that you should take into account, besides how crazy her claims are of the things that she accuses Mary of, which now include that she has a fake name, Beth Martinez, with which she has threatened to throw acid in her face. So she's accused Mary of being part of a mob gang stalker group that she leads and all the pages that she runs, photoshopping her to make her look fatter, murdering her animals with witchcraft, making her go bald by the end of 2020, and throwing acid in her face or hair. Is there anything I've missed? And then she, it's funny, except that it's real. It's real harassment. It's a real nuisance. It's a real cost that she's generating that forces people to show up in court, and she loves it and enjoys it. And there's evidence of the fact that she relishes the fact that she's doing this maliciously to American citizens, and they can't do anything about it. Take a look at one of her posts. From her own page, she said, "Is it true that some of you are being threatened if you don't turn on me? You're going to jail? They can't even get me to show up to respond to the fake scorned accusations in a year." She is gloating here about the fact that people can't get her to show up in court to respond to what she feels are accusations against her that are false, that are fake, for an entire year. And then she goes on to gloat about the fact that she makes other people show up to court, like what, 15 times collectively, and more coming soon. She's so proud of the fact that she abuses the court system. And she's like, so they can't get me to show up because they can't serve me, because they can't find me, because I don't live in the United States, because I hide in Mexico so that I can take advantage of the American court system. And what am I able to do to them? I force them to show up. Why? Because they're not deadbeat frauds that are evading the American justice system. When they are sent some kind of claim, they show up and they meet it face to face and they deal with it and you. But you don't have any repercussions for perjury, as I said at the top of the hour, 2 hours ago, an hour and a half ago. You don't get any repercussions for felony perjury because we don't do that in this country. We already have an overburdened court system. If we took every single person that perjured themselves, that filed a false police report, filed a false request for a restraining order against someone, we wouldn't be able to use our court systems. People like Paloma are the worst example of how our systems are abused and clogged by nuisance litigation. And she's doing it maliciously, as she admits in her posts, to harm American citizens because she knows they cannot do anything about it. Here's her talking just last week as she was traveling around one of the prostitution sections of Tijuana, making fun of American citizens that she drags into court and costs thousands of dollars. In her own words. Listen.
Hey guys, so as I'm out having fun today and having a very productive day, I have to say, I had a very productive day. Got a lot done, and finally letting my hair down. I get messages right now from this mob of people, really, because that's now what it's become, a mob of people that, if you think about it, it all started with an alcoholic and a woman who's basically obsessed with getting what she wants through either threatening people or manipulating people or doing witchcraft on people or doing spells on people. This is how it all started, right? It all started with this one person reaching out to some drunk alcoholic here in San Diego, who started a freaking war, because I think a lot of people have been affected by all of this. I think most of the stupid people think that it's me. But if you think about it, a lot of people have been affected by this. Like, how many people have gone to court now over this, right? I mean, granted, the pervert was doing this way before, but I think some people ended up in court when they never thought they were going to end up in court. Some people ended up spending money when they never thought they were going to spend money. Some people ended up losing probably thousands of dollars when they never thought they were going to lose thousands of dollars. And it all started with one woman who wants to manipulate others through witchcraft, okay, through her spells, and she went and reaching out to an alcoholic.
She's talking about the witch from Brazil. She always calls the witch from Brazil. It started with this witch, right? Doing witchcraft that she claimed that she told Anthony about, that she claimed that she told Oscar about, that she claimed contacted Amy, that she claims all these claims that she makes out of her delusional headspace. But as you can hear clearly, she is reveling, enjoying the fact that, you know, there's people out there that think that she's being affected in some way by all of the shows and the exposure to her activities and her behavior and her nuisance litigation and all of that. But those people that feel like somehow it's affecting her negatively, they're stupid people. The stupid people believe that. But in reality, there's actually a lot of people she's affected negatively, that she's affected negatively, and that never thought they were going to be affected negatively, that are now having to pay out of their pocket thousands of dollars. And it just to think, it all started with that one person, right? Fabiana Baldo. And she's proud of it, Duke. She's proud of it. Yeah, every dollar she makes these people lose, she is enjoying every minute of it.
Yeah, and that's disgusting. You know, that whole thing just really bothers me. And, you know, people on the show today are contributing. They're choosing to contribute. Like Ms. Red Badger made a contribution of $10 and said, sending a fake donation as ordered, LOL. That's pretty funny. And Sophia made a $20 donation and said, here's a fake donation. She is ignorant. For a YouTube partner, the money goes to Google first, then to the channel. She can't be a YouTube partner like Oscar or Cindy and Duke, which is true. You know, it's complicated and it takes a lot. You know, it took me, you know, a long time to get everything set up, and I did everything legitimately, and it took some work and it took a lot of accountability. And she says I can make $2,000 on a super chat if I wanted to, you know, and well, then do it.
Do it. Show us. Let's take a look at the last page here. And if you thought it couldn't get any weirder, it still does. She talks about how terrified she is now. I am now terrified of her. She's talking about Mary. Her erratic actions, which have been caught and considered a threat to me by the private security company Alpha Team Jericho Security. In collaboration, Alpha Team Jericho.
Parachuting in.
In collaboration with the San Diego Police Department in a joint task force with the Alpha Team Jericho and the San Diego PD, who had advised her to go and seek a civil harassment restraining order against Mary Tando Quintanilla, the kingpin. Jesus.
Wow.
And then she showed up at my event to stalk me, harass me, get physical with the guests, including a man in a wheelchair, and then filmed it to post it all over the internet. You know, the way that she writes it, you would never be able to tell that Mary bought a ticket to a public event that she left from when it ended. No one threw her out.
It was over.
It was already over. And that she, you know, was able to serve Paloma at with the restraining order that was granted in Mary's favor.
Yep.
That's what really burns her about this whole thing. She got served at an event. And then she goes on to say, Mary is a danger and a threat to me, my work, those around me, my vehicle, my pets, and my family. And she lied several times during the original hearing, stating that she isn't even an activist. As you can see from the photo attached, She is an avid Trump supporter, proud to collaborate and finally meet Anthony Agüero in Washington, D.C. She both admits that Mary is merely a Trump supporter that goes to events, and that she, in the photo that she has attached, she is meeting Anthony for the first time in Washington, D.C., and for the only time that they met, I think, in any public venue, because they had never met. So the fact that she says that Anthony Agüero is her partner or her whatever, or her ally, her friend that she works in tandem with, is simply a joke, and she knows it. She admits as much in her request for the restraining order. And then she goes on to say about Anthony that he is a man, and look how she publishes this slander in a public record, that Anthony Agüero is a man who was in prison for years and who has an extensive record of aggravated assault against women and animals. And he has been convicted on 2 felonies. She is part of this group and proud to collaborate with him and others in their public mob-like attacks against me because I expose his abuse and theft of thousands of dollars against supporters. He has had me followed in El Paso, Texas by one of his best friends and uploaded the stalking to YouTube as well. I'm afraid Miss Quintanilla will stop at nothing to get revenge for me not wanting to work for her for free, as well as help her friend Anthony Agüero, Michael Shapiro, and others. She goes on to say that they will stop at nothing. This group of people will stop at nothing to shut her up somehow, saying that Mary has even posted doctored pictures of her dead body, of a dead body with Paloma's face on them, as well as a photo of a dismembered body with her face on it as well. Didn't she attribute those same pictures to Anthony and to Oscar and to others?
She's recycling the same thing.
She recycles the same accusations and just tosses them on the new request for a restraining order because at the end of the day, she's not paying for any of this, right?
Right.
When she refers to her work that she does, it consists mostly of things like this. And this is the photo which she claims was doctored, I think, because it was one of the many things I received from multiple sources that were at this courthouse on that day. And filming and taking pictures or making recordings in the hallways and listening and taking notes inside the courtroom are not crimes. Nobody recorded anything inside of any courtroom. And this is an actual picture of Paloma. This is not photoshopped. That was not photoshopped by anybody. It was not photoshopped before it came to me. It was not photoshopped after it came to me. This is actually what Paloma looked like on that day. She doesn't like the fact that she looked that way. But here's another picture of her on that day wearing shoes. You may recall she also wore a brace on her ankle. Here's her ankle with the brace that she wore in that same photograph. This is a close-up of her foot with the brace. And here's a picture of Jean sitting next to her. You can see she's wearing that brace on her foot. None of these pictures have been altered in any way, shape, or form. That's exactly what she looked like at the time. And the claims that she is making about somebody cutting her throat, that's simply ludicrous given the fact that she had made the accusations that Anthony Agüero and Oscar were the ones that had done that throat cutting stuff. And she says this in her request for restraining order. She says, Anthony Agüero has been heard with one of his partners, she's referring to Oscar, on a video saying that people that talk too much will have their throat cuts open, referring to me and a video I had made earlier that day. That's not demonstrable in any way. She once again is imagining things in her paranoid mind and putting them into a request for a restraining order. Mary Quintanilla is a major threat to me and will do anything to hurt me physically, psychologically, emotionally, legally if she is able to. I am unable to freely move around, go on about my normal life, especially with the temporary restraining order in place. as this is only another incentive for Miss Quintanilla to stalk me, follow me, and frame me. People she collaborates with have used this tactic on others to have them arrested. I'm afraid for my safety and anyone around me from this woman. The group threatened that they would come after my animals as I have an animal rescue and I came home to find one of my animals brutally murdered. See photograph of my brutally murdered animal attached.
Oh my God. Oh, poor judge has to look at that.
Yeah. And let me just share with you that she has talked about that El Paso event on many occasions. This is the event at which she was served by Fabiana Baldo.
Oh, okay.
Anthony had nothing to do with it, didn't know anything about it, but she has since attributed it to Anthony because Anthony lives in El Paso. And also she's attributed it to Oscar because he's Anthony's friend. But she has also made posts in which she has talked about the whole group of quote unquote stalkers, which she says are mob stalking her, which includes Mary, of being responsible for going to events like this one and stalking her. So, I mean, honestly, the delusion is part of her abuse of the court system. It doesn't matter whether she truly believes it or whether she makes it up out of whole cloth and does it for fun. She knows it's wrong, and she's simply looking for attention. What the craziest part of all of this is that she posts on multiple different platforms everything about what she is doing, what she is going to do, including posing nearly nude, posting what she is eating, drinking, what she is wearing,
Or not wearing.
and talking about herself non-stop to promote her brand and celebrity as a public figure, and then wants no one to talk about or look at her like a crazy person, and calls anybody that looks at all of her public posts stalkers.
Yep.
Which is it, crazy? She's like that guy from the comedy show, that Stewart, the little kid Stewie, the guy that was always saying, "Look what I can do! Look what I can do!" Trying to get people's attention. Look what I can do. And then when they get your attention, they go, "Oh, you looked at me now? Well, now I'm filing a false protection order against you." You can't have it both ways. Look at me. Look at me. Look what I can do. And then, "Oh, I'm suing you because you looked at me." Either you're a public figure and you show everyone everything because you want them to see it. You can't exclude or preclude certain people from commenting on it or making memes about it or having a public opinion about you as a public figure because you didn't like what they believe about you as a result of your own words, as a result of your own images, videos, etc. That's on you, boo. Only on you. So I look forward to hearing what the outcome of these upcoming court dates will be, as I'm sure all of you are. And I will be bringing you updates on all of that as soon as they become available to me. Thank you once again for watching A Mexican Crossing Lines with your hosts, Cindy Gomez-Schempp
And Duke Gomez-Schempp.
You're listening to 88.1 FM, KPPPLP Fargo Moorhead, where we are adding local color to your airwaves. Have a great night and God bless.